Right now, somewhere in the world, a stadium built for the FIFA World Cup 2026 is roaring so loud it shows up on seismographs. Thousands of strangers are screaming for the same team, painting their faces the same colors, hugging people they will never see again. That part isn't the mystery. The mystery is what's actually happening inside their bodies while they do it. Because the chemical reaction lighting up that crowd right now is not new. It is 50,000 years old, and almost nobody in that stadium has any idea they're running it. Here's the first thing that should bother you. None of these fans chose their team the way they choose a friend. Most inherited it from a father, a city, a flag, and yet the loyalty can feel stronger than relationships they've spent years building. You'll defend this team in arguments with people you actually know personally. You'll feel real grief when they lose a match that changes nothing about your actual life. Why would a species evolve to bond that hard, that fast, with people it has never personally met? To answer that, you have to go back further than football, further than Mexico, Canada, and the United States hosting 48 teams this summer. You have to go back to a time when groups of humans had no stadiums, no jerseys, and no away games, just rival bands fighting over the same river, the same hunting ground, the same cave. Anthropological work on small-scale societies, the kind closest in structure to those ancient bands, shows these groups rarely exceeded 100 or so people. Survival meant the whole group had to move and act almost instantly with no time to vote or negotiate. So evolution didn't wait for culture to solve that problem. It built a shortcut directly into the nervous system. And here's where the real question starts. What did those ancient humans do right before a fight that modern fans are still doing without realizing it? The anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades studying how human groups bond, and he found something specific about synchronized activity. Chanting, clapping, moving in rhythm together. It triggers a flood of endorphins in the brain far beyond what the activity itself should produce. Singing alone doesn't do this. Singing in sync with strangers does. That distinction matters more than it sounds like it should. It means the bonding effect isn't really coming from the song or the result or even the team. It's coming from the synchrony itself, the simple act of 40,000 bodies hitting the same beat at the same moment. Watch a World Cup crowd chant in unison, and you're watching that exact mechanism fire in real time. Something in the brain quietly stops tracking individual bodies. It starts tracking one shared body instead. That should sound familiar. Drumming before a hunt, chanting before a raid. Ancient coalitions used the same trick for the same reason, because there was no time to build trust slowly when your life depended on 40 strangers acting as one organism in under a minute. So the chant isn't decoration. It's the oldest trust-building technology your species ever invented, and FIFA just gave it a sound system. But that still leaves the second open question. Chanting builds the bond. What builds the rage? In 1998, the psychologist Paul Bernhardt ran an experiment most fans have never heard of. He measured testosterone in men watching a sports match, not playing in one, just watching. When their team won, testosterone rose. When their team lost, it dropped. Almost exactly the hormonal pattern of someone who had personally won or lost a physical fight. These fans never touched the field. Their bodies didn't care. As far as their endocrine systems were concerned, watching the match was the fight. Stop and sit with that for a second. The men in Bernhardt's study weren't even in the stadium. They watched from a separate room with zero physical stake in the outcome, and their hormones moved anyway, in lockstep with 11 strangers running around on grass thousands of miles away. That's not a metaphor for tribal conflict. That's the actual biology of tribal conflict, just with the danger removed and the scoreboard left in. Now, picture that hormone shift happening inside a World Cup stadium where 32 nations are reduced to one simple split: us and them. Psychologists call this in-group and out-group bias, and it's brutally easy to trigger. Classic experiments have shown you can split total strangers into two sides using nothing but a coin flip, and within minutes they start favoring their own side and distrusting the other, even knowing the split was random. A coin flip is enough to do that. Imagine what a decades of national identity, anthem, flag, and rivalry does to the same circuit. But here's the part that should genuinely surprise you. The bias doesn't even need a real disagreement to work. The two groups in those classic experiments had no actual conflict, no history, no real reason to distrust each other at all. The label alone was enough. Now think about what a World Cup rivalry adds on top of a label. Decades of matches, national pride, childhood memories of watching with your father, songs sung at every match since before you were born. The coin flip version of this bias is the weakest possible case. What's happening in a packed World Cup stadium is the same circuit running at maximum intensity. So here's where the three threads finally meet. The chanting fuses you to your group. The hormones convince your body it's in a real contest. The rivalry sorts the world into allies and threats. Stack all three inside one stadium, and what you get isn't really a sports crowd. It's a war party with better lighting. Notice that none of those three ingredients require the sport itself to matter. They'd work the same way for basketball, for cricket, for two villages arguing over a well. Football didn't invent any of this machinery. It just happens to be the version that fills 100,000 seats and broadcasts to half the planet at once, which means more human brains are running this exact ancient program simultaneously during a World Cup than almost anything else humans do. And maybe that sounds alarming. It isn't entirely, because this is also the resolution to the mystery you started with. That circuitry didn't evolve for cruelty, it evolved for survival, for 40 strangers to move as one body fast enough to live through a threat. The World Cup didn't invent that wiring, it just gave it somewhere safer to go. Instead of a raid, you get a chant. Instead of a spear, you get a flag draped over someone's shoulders. The danger has been swapped out, but the program underneath is the exact same one your ancestors were running around a fire. Which finally answers the question you started with. Why would a species bond that hard, that fast with strangers? Because for most of human history, hesitating to bond with your own coalition for even a few seconds could end you. The instinct wasn't built for football. Football just happened to be the safest place left for it to run, the one arena where the ancient program can fire at full intensity without anyone actually getting hurt. So, this summer, when you find yourself screaming at a screen for a team of strangers, hugging someone you will never meet again, feeling something close to fury at a jersey that hasn't done anything to you personally, notice what's actually happening. You're not just watching the FIFA World Cup 2026, you're watching 50,000 years of human survival instinct wearing a new uniform with absolutely nowhere left to fight.
If that made something click, hit subscribe. New videos dropping on this channel covering the hidden science behind the way you think, feel, and behave, explained simply, visually, and in a way that actually sticks. Hit the bell so you never miss one. The answers have always been there. You just needed someone to explain them.